Donald Trump, eh? Got his head blown off.
Oh, mate, skimmed his ears.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know, someone was telling me the other day, if it was a higher caliber gun, that it could have done some serious damage if it didn't hit him. I didn't know this. This guy used to be in the army, so I learned something there. I don't know what caliber gun he got hit. Clipped with.
I don't know what it was.
I don't know what it was.
Apparently, if he was a couple calibers.
It's mad. The images of like his head turns that way. It's back of the brain.
Yeah.
Back of the brain. That's it. Done.
When you say the Lord has his protection.
I do.
Yeah. Well.
The best.
What?
Well, does he?
Points, kings, and he takes them.
Well, this. Yeah, I mean, it does make you think. It does make you think, like, because I've looked at it a little bit, and the amount of things that went wrong, that's kind of crazy. It's kind of amazing that the guy didn't hit him square between the eyes from that distance. Look, I've watched quite a lot of people doing, they're like, a few guys are like, I could take a kid shooting. Like, I've heard this, I could take a kid shooting from that range, like 150 feet, and by the end, and in a couple of...
feet is nothing.
Nothing.
That's actually nothing.
So the fact that he didn't crack him straight on is kind of mad.
Yeah. Do you remember that shooter though? Do you remember that shooter at that concert, and he gets up on a building and he starts shooting into the crowd there in America? Do you remember that?
Vegas.
Too many shootings.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
It was in Vegas though, and
when was this?
It was just
a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like 3 years ago. Anyway, like he did kill a few people, but for having a machine gun, like. Up
he was
there.
Unsuccessful, yeah.
He didn't kill very many people. Like you would expect, bundled people.
Yeah.
You'd expect. Like, imagine. I know he was close, but imagine the nerves of being that person actually taking that shot. Like I know, I'm not saying that it maybe
taking the Trump shot.
Easy. Yeah, you're about to assassinate. I don't know if he's a professional. But as I understand it, he's only a 20-year-old lad or something.
He's a 20-year-old lad, and then they found out he was in a BlackRock commercial.
What's a BlackRock?
BlackRock is the monster company who owns everything and is also in charge of basically rebuilding Ukraine when that's done.
Yeah, but
it's so dodgy.
Yeah, imagine being a 20-year-old kid and you're about to.
It's scary. It is scary.
But imagine, you're a 20-year-old lad. You've got this conviction that you're going to kill the president or. I don't know. Can I say it? He's been paid to do it.
They still call ex-presidents presidents. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, he's about to.
Can I say has he won it? Oh, he's won.
He's about to take the shot, and there's a whole massive crowd. He does kill someone, actually, doesn't he?
Someone did get
So I think that must have been going around in his head. Is if I miss this, I'm going to hit someone in the crowd as well. Maybe he doesn't care.
I think at that point he knows like whether I get as successful on Trump or not. I'm dead. Because he's only 150 feet.
Yeah.
There's Secret Service around everywhere. Like it's not.
Well, clearly not, because how he got on that roof.
Yeah. That's
which is also
a bit sus.
Just not.
Like, which president has anyone ever in the recent years been able to get that close?
Well, the thing is, you look at the buildings and the amount of buildings there. It is not a big place. Was it like a little farm or something? Yeah. Somewhere in Pennsylvania. It's not big. It would be really easy to have someone, and you would have someone on every roof because that's like a perfect.
And you've got stuff like drones now as well. What's going on?
Everything. There was nothing. So the whole thing is like it's too incompetent to make up. It's too incompetent that makes you kind of think.
Sums up the candidates really.
Oh, mate, yeah.
It's still not great though. Seeing someone trying to.
No, like it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if it's a candidate that you hate.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing.
Is there?
There's.
And that is what Joe said.
Who?
Joe Biden. That's what he said.
Oh, I thought you said Job.
I thought you said Job.
I said Job. What did Job say?
What did Job say? Assassination.
And he said.
I missed that verse.
And thou saveth.
Oh,
the Don G. Yeah, I know. I don't know if you can because I think there've been a few people talking about like, have you heard of he's a Christian YouTuber, Ruslan Cody? He does stuff. He was talking about prophecies and stuff, about stuff like this, and how kind of when you have a lot of friction, like you have cycles, and when you have a lot of friction in the culture, which you do have, because obviously you'll get like the kind of super, I'd say very Americanized Christians who are like, it's very cultural, and they'll be like, God's saving Trump, blah, 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 and they'll go off on that. They will. What they will. Blah, blah, blah. That was just the Holy Spirit. And
You're so done. As my friend would say, you're out of pocket.
Yeah, but that you have that aspect of it. But then you do kind of wonder, is there a reason he is, because he's like a bull, he's kind of like a bull in a china shop with it all. Yeah. And I think it's become so exposed at how everything functions or doesn't function. It's like, does God appoint? Because I'm not going to say Trump's a Christian. Like he would probably say, yeah, I'm a Christian, whatever.
I've read the Bible.
I read the Bible. It's my favorite book, the best book. What's your favorite verse? All of it. All the verses.
The Bible's great.
But, especially when it's sponsored by China. But you do kind of wonder if how someone is being used. Like how is he being used? Because he doesn't have to. Like God doesn't have to allow him to be there.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been reading through Kings at the minute. That's been my funny quiet time study. But yeah,
Kings, rough.
Because I've been working through the Bible. And you get to 2 Kings, and you're just reading through. This was a good king. Well, there's only like 1 or 2, 3 good kings I've come across so far. Everyone's did even the sight of the Lord, put up false prophets, false idols, da da da. And you're like, what is the plan? What am I meant to be learning here? And so far, what I'm getting is the big overall thing is actually God has made promises, and God is still in charge. Yeah. He actually raises up leaders and throws them down all to achieve his purposes, even when they're the most evil kings ever, like Ahab, who sets up the most Baal worship temples and prophets and all that kind of stuff. It's actually, you see how wicked and evil people really are and how far from God it is, and how he disciplines them and brings them back to himself. And some, probably in the midst of it, they're not seeing it, but having it to read through is like, oh, this is actually history, and this is God is still in it. And are we going through a similar period if we look around the world? There's so many leaders. Yeah,
because people would have looked at like during Hitler, and you're like, what? I would have been like, how can you allow? Because God's allowing it. Like Hitler didn't. Yeah. God could have just had Hitler killed. Yeah. So the question is why do you, or do you look at it as it is the result of, you know, because a nation, because it's someone when people say a nation turned away. Now, obviously, when people say a nation turned away, they don't literally mean every single individual within a nation.
But as a whole.
So when God blesses a nation, and I think punishes a nation, for a better word, but you've then got the aspect of within that nation, you'll always have Christians within any nation. Yeah. Who are then, there's kind of like layers of blessing a nation, blessing people within a nation, allowing evil leaders, taking down evil leaders.
Yeah, because I think it's always, I was thinking as well, it's always clear to see that actually even, God has allowed them to, even though they are there and evil happens and they what they call it? Perpetuate. Come true.
Yeah.
Perpetuate it in a society or government or whatever. That's actually not God's plan or intention. He doesn't want evil to proliferate.
Yeah. Even though he's allowing it to a degree, he gives it some
free agency. He allows things in, but at the same time, he's sovereign. And we see him how he uses it to show us what we're really like. And just because they do evil whilst they're in power, it's not God's purpose and what he wants. Yeah. But his will is so much greater that he can actually use them to achieve a lot. In the sense of the evil that they, do shows us what we're really like. It's not just the kings, it's not just Trump who's like what he is. Actually, all of us are like that, in a sense. And until we see how really far removed from God we are when left on our own, and how evil we are when left from God, do we actually turn to him?
Yeah.
Because it's those events which bring Israel back, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of
Not
like
showing them the evil.
It's kind of like when people say you get the leaders you deserve. The leader you get is mirroring the culture you've become.
Yeah. So Trump is not in power unless he's voted in.
Yeah. And I think, like, in the case we're reading through the book of Daniel at the moment, God allows King Nebuchadnezzar to be in charge of Babylon, and it's because he then uses Babylon to discipline Israel. So these things happen, you know, the wrong leader gets in charge through God's will as an act, as an act as an act of discipline. I'm not saying whether Trump is the right or not. I'm just saying that is an option, is that sometimes the wrong leader gets in through God's will, and no bullet's going to be able to stop God's will. So whatever, if that is God's will, then maybe that is an option.
Yeah.
You know,
it's interesting seeing all the different reactions online, though, isn't it, to it?
Into what, in terms of him?
Trump, and the assassination and stuff like that.
I think what you have. I think also people. It's funny how people act surprised, in a sense of they will act surprised that something like this could happen, when people prepare, like they act surprised, like, oh, that's an extreme reaction to what we've been saying, which we've basically been calling someone Hitler.
Yeah.
And Hitler's someone who you'd want to kill.
Yeah.
But we're surprised that someone took a shot.
Yeah, and people have probably said
stuff
like that towards Trump in terms of like,
Yeah, and I think that what you realise, I think the thing that I do, again, this is kind of a bit of a JP thing. He was talking about the importance of. No, but he was talking about the importance of having like tiers and breakdown of governance, and how basically how with our discourse, like in our country, we don't tend to elevate a president like a king. We recognise there's like a weight to being the king, like King Charles. There's a weight to that draws away from who the Prime Minister is. So even though the Prime Minister is more in control of that, you don't put that kind of godly weight on just a human being, and also give them the responsibility.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing. I think it's a good thing, because you can end up worshipping, like, it's like people have the mindset of, oh, I think all our problems will go away if we just elect the right person. If we just get the right party in, that will solve the problems. And I think what you realise is that won't, because they're just human beings. They're just human beings. But Trump's not the answer, or Biden isn't the answer. They're not like the answer to the problems.
Jesus is he did it.
Well, we know this. You know this.
You know it.
and whoever gets in, we're called to live underneath their authority and follow their rules.
Yeah.
That's a difficult one to then know how far you go with that.
One of the things I've been really, maybe not finding challenging is the right word, is sometimes you hear a lot of people, they're praying for specific governments to get in, and sometimes it's a good, we want godly governments because that would transform a nation.
Yeah.
Would it?
And that's a godly governments, yeah.
Did you say would it?
Yeah, would it?
Yeah, if you had godly governments.
Like in a sense.
Well, what do you mean? But when you say godly government, what do you mean?
Oh yeah. What do you mean?
Godly government in terms of, we had Christian leaders in charge who are really living out their calling. You look about when Israel prospers as some of the kings who are living as God calls them to king. David, when he was doing David things. Solomon, you think about the temple was built, all this kind of prosperity when they go into the promised land and that kind of stuff. Obviously I'm not saying they're perfect, but you do see society flourish. Think about the West. The entire morals and judicial system is actually built on Christian morals and justice.
I think they were saying if you were a country founded on like Spain, Portugal or France, you're a poor country, whereas if you're a country founded on Britain, they are richer countries. Canada, New Zealand, Australia, America. Like there's a pattern because we had a very uniquely Christian foundation within our governance.
And you even think
Not to say, again, it's not to say we've done everything perfect.
Yeah.
We've never had any sin in our governance. It's not saying, but the ones that have had the most, it's like the whole slavery thing. It's like, which is the country that abolished slavery? Great Britain, at immense cost. And that was because you had just a few Christians starting out within the government, and they were like, no, we're going to go on a Wilberforce. We're going to go on a rampage and say this is not acceptable.
Yeah. So, and you think about, oh, I can't remember what my point was.
Sorry, I took
You're
you
saying that a Christian nation ruled by a Christian
Transforms
person transforms the country, but does it transform the people's hearts? I think that's what
good question.
That's more what I was talking about. Like prosperity-wise, I think I absolutely agree.
Yeah,
what I'm not sure of is actual hearts.
Well,
changed.
ideally, you'd want leaders as well who they're leading the country in terms of morals, laws, this and that. What's for they ideally should be leaders for the people and after God's heart. Isn't it? So if they're after God's heart and for the people, naturally they're going to be leading the people to God.
Yeah.
But I was saying as well in terms of like, that's one prayer, which I think is an awesome prayer.
Yeah.
But also, should we be praying for the strength that we're going to need when a government goes further away, if a government gets elected that goes further away from actually what we believe in as Christians, and we're now called in a society to like with laws that say, nah, we're going to allow this, we're going to do this, and that goes against what Christ calls us to do. The prayer is actually, even if the wrong government gets elected, allow us to be faithful where we are. Give us the courage we're going to need to stand up and potentially one day might get persecuted in this country for your faith.
So in that circumstance, if they're asking us to affirm something that's obviously against biblical values, then we are in that circumstance we're going to have to say no. But like obviously most of the time the government isn't going to do that because we are based on their values at the moment as it stands at the moment.
Yeah,
and
so
there's
still a lot of things which even in today's government you can really look at and be like, they allow this and say it's okay. Do we stand up for it and say actually this is what the Bible says?